We're here in the Brown Brothers family cellar, a cellar that we built after a serious frost in the vineyard in 1968, and beginning of 1969 we did the work, and we built a cellar in part to store a range of red wines that we were making at that time. My father had spent a lot of his career developing red wines from red grapes from different varieties, and he had quite a collection. And it seemed appropriate that we had the capacity to age some of them in ideal conditions in an underground cellar like this. And so this cellar used to be used for bottles lying on their side where the bins were stacked to the roof with bottles of red wine aging. Now we've changed it and we use it for the family cellar, where we put some of our best wines away every year, some for long-term keeping and some for using when we get the urge to pull out a nice bottle of old wine. But during the early part of my career, we developed a lot of products. We had a really good product range of dry whites and dry red table wine styles, also some sweet table wine styles, but we didn't have a sparkling. And my brother Ross was very keen to get a sparkling wine so that when we put on a banquet or a dinner of some sort, we had a range of wines that could start with a sparkling wine at the beginning, move through the whites and the reds, and ultimately the luscious sweet wines. And so Ross asked me if we could make a sparkling wine, and whilst I hadn't spent any time learning how to do that, I was keen to give it a go. And in 1983, we made a start on that program. And because I really didn't want to just copy the French, because they were the ones that had the sparkling wine that was world renowned at the time, I felt I'd like to develop something that was really very much more Australian, something using grape varieties other than Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And so the first vintage, I used some Pinot Noir and some Chardonnay, and also some Chenin Blanc and some Trebbiano and a couple of other varieties, and fermented them, also with different yeasts, to try and learn as much as we could about making sparkling wines a bit differently in that first year of experiments. At the end of those experiments, we really concluded that perhaps the French did get it right after all. They were using the right varieties. Pinot Noir and Chardonnay seemed to work really well. It worked better than any other varieties that we tried. So we continued on then developing sparkling wine made with those varieties. It was about that time that we realised how important it was to get grapes from cool climates to make good sparkling wine. And the property at Whitlands came on the market, and we purchased that. It's a high elevation vineyard at 800 metres, and at the time was probably going to be the coolest and highest vineyard area anywhere in Australia. And it seemed like it'd be really well suited to sparkling wine. So we've been using that as a source of our sparkling wine fruit, complemented by some other fruit, mostly from the King Valley, that lends itself very well. And our sparkling wines have been hugely successful. I only had a little to do with the early years of sparkling wines, and then as the business grew and I had to move out of the winemaking role to run the company, we had other qualified winemakers come in and take over that project. They've been absolutely successful, and I think we've got one of the most accredited sparkling wines now in the Australian market with our non-vintage sparkling wine. It just so happens I'm sitting near a bin of sparkling wine here, and this particular bottle, well, it's pretty dusty, was made in 1988, so it's just one of the earlier sparkling wines that we made on the route to getting our sparkling wine to the real perfection that it's in today.